Okay, so I'm gonna talk about the G major prelude by Chopin, and I recorded it, and you can check it out on this channel as well. It'll be like a little card or whatever you can click right now if you want to see that first. Okay, so the challenges of this piece, there's kind of a bunch of them. So this thing, trying to get that even in the left hand and not too loud, were the challenges. So like a typical way to do it is take the metronome and one click it all the way up. So I think the professionals, like really good, play around 200, you know, so you can start from like 130s and start to increase all the way to 200. And then obviously some slow practice as well. Okay, so that's a typical way. I'm not going to do too much of that. I'm going to do a little bit more like detailed ways to practice this. So the thumb on the E, you got to really quiet that. So practice just like that, where you get to the E, don't go past it, and you play the E really quiet, so that you can compare the last G to how you strike the E. Okay, the next one is the release of the keys. So when you're playing this part, you might be getting too much overlap. Okay, if you are getting that, or just in general, put your pinky on C, and then when you go to push D, release the C by throwing the finger in the air and then dropping it. When you push the E, release the fourth finger, push the E, that's what I said, push the pointer, push the thumb and release the pointer. And go back down, releasing the thumb. So right now I'm pushing my pointer on F, and when I push the E, I throw that pointer to give it a clean up. And when I go back to play this, if I think about that up motion just a little bit, it keeps it just a little crisper. And not as overlapped. And I think that this is a good approach for like Baroque era music if you're playing Bach. I don't play Bach that well, so I don't really know. Okay, anyway, next one is the A. Okay. So this is that's about as fast as I can play. This is one of the limiting factors of the piece. It's probably the hardest thing. And the big question is whether or not you play the thumb on F sharp. I know like Paul Barton does, and I'm sure other famous players do. He's a YouTuber, and I'm sure some of the other like recording artists will put the thumb there on the F sharp because you do the thumb there in the same location for measure 1. So I'm talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, measure 7. I put a finger 2 on the F sharp. I follow the principle that the 3 longest fingers are used on the black keys, and I do a couple other things. On the A prior to the F sharp, I strike it on the right side of the key, and I strike it close to the key line. This cuts down the distance between the A and the F sharp. After stopping on that A, and feeling like I have a good point of contact with my wrist ready to go right, I move on and I jump to the F sharp. When I jump to the F sharp, I don't leave the rest of my fingers behind. I bring them up so my hand stays in a tight position. These are all like my tricks from, this is how I approach the piano. Okay, so then once I can do that, I do it on one energy burst. Okay, the second half of that part is a downward pull at 45 degrees. I do it all octaves. Change the rhythms up, change your holds up, play it in every location. Then when you put the two together, there's an energy burst up, and there's an energy burst down. And I consciously think of these big waves. I try to lean into my up and lean into my down. I feel my left foot. Okay, there's a lot of information in this. I'm gonna go quick, but go back and like process this. Okay, the next thing is, which is on the D pattern, measure number measure number 11. Sorry, I don't look at the measure numbers much. So measure number 11 is atypical in the composition form. The prelude or the introduction is 2 bars. The main theme is 4 bars. Then you get 4 bars of this, and after you get 4 bars of that, bar 3, bar 4, bar 5 has that before you do another 4-bar phrase of this. So the issue is, how is this extra bar, which makes one of the phrases an odd number, or you have a 1-bar phrase fit in? So some of the famous recordings I've listened to play it really crisp, and they play it like kind of like prissy, or I don't know if it's like the right word, but I don't know, they're on top of it. I kind of play it more subdued and softer, and in the composition I think it's an outlier. If you play it prominently, it doesn't fit the composition outline, in my opinion. I just think of it as a lighthearted thing that leads me back into the melody. You know, and if you play just the top, I think it's a sweeter sound. It's really useful to play this song. If I take it from the top, I'm playing like these sketch A7, D, G7, and I'm putting G7, C major 7. What do I do? Sus. So I played just the melody alone. I played like just chords in my left hand, and I could hear the melody of the piece. I think that's a really useful activity as well. Okay, so in this one, getting that to hit on the B. So there's 4 spots. First spot, second spot, no. Okay, better. So making those line up, and I kept them kind of weak and quieter like that. I don't pronounce them as much as other people do. And, you know, it's a weird spot in the composition. I don't know how much I don't love that spot, so I don't know. Okay, so then we get to a lot of this, which is just top voice, like 16 and on to the end. You're just looking at that stuff. So all you're gonna really have to work on, which is hard, it's gonna be hard, how good your top voice is. The really great players, you don't really hear much of the bottom. Sometimes they go too far with it, in my opinion. You don't even hear the rest of the chord at all. To practice this, you'll take your chord, we'll do the one with the B on top. Go down slow with the E and G, strike the B stronger after. Strike the B strong first, go down slow with the E, G. Put them all together. Ooh, that was a good one. Put them all together there, and then try the distribution. Knowing that pitch in your head, so you know what to listen for. If I played it like this, I know I'm not hearing bum. I'm not hearing that B shine through. So know what you're listening for. Okay, then do all the options. Heavy on the thumb, heavy in the middle, heavy on top. All that kind of control is going to be key. The hardest one for me is E, G, A. The G, A cluster creates such a warble because a major second has so much conflict in the physics of the sounds. So getting the EG real quiet and the A to shine through, you'll listen to the great players and they'll crush that way more than me. But all the exercises, A loud first, EG quiet, A after, start to go together, start to do heavy on the E, and that wasn't that great on the G, heavy on the middle, heavy on the top. That's not a bad one on the end, at the end. Okay, so then we get to the ending, which was tricky for me, and my recording's not all that great. But how to get all that to work. Okay, so the issue, and I just realized this for making this video, is the GDG in the left hand is really easy to play at measure number 28. But the right hand, BDG, is hard to play, right? 2-1-2. And there's not a better fingering, because after you get that hand position, you can rip the rest of it. So the first one, 2-1-2, is what's hard. Left hand, level of difficulty, playing GDG, as all y'all know, that's easy. Putting them together is harder because the right hand has a much harder part. So to make an exercise out of the right hand, move it around the white keys. G, B, E, A, C, F, B, D, G. Go the other way, go down. You can do them together. Okay, you could hold the middle, top. Ooh. You could do it in different octaves, but make as many drills out of that part, because the speed in the right, it's different level of difficulty for the left. They don't match up in difficulty, that's why they don't stay together. The next one that doesn't stay together is beat 3 on measure 29. It's DCBA in the right hand. Level of difficulty for the right hand, super easy. Everybody can play that. But in the left hand, DCBA, we have a thumb under. 2, 3, thumb on B, pointer on A. If you put them together, you'll hear the imperfection. Now you can do this. I didn't really do it in other octaves. And then the really good players is at crazy speeds, they can keep that so even in the left hand, and they're so good at that thumb under. So, you know, I never do this, but you can play your major scales down in your left hand at fast speeds, like 180, 190, 200 beats per minute, and you're playing 16th notes against those corresponding quarter notes on the metronome, right? 190 equals a quarter note, and your left hand needs to play like all your major scales descending. And for this piece, it's going to really help because your thumb unders are going to be a lot cleaner. That would kill my soul. I don't do stuff like that. But that's the next like step to like match the great players. So make a drill out of it. Ooh. You hear how they start to unfold? Anyway, you see how they start to get different speeds. Okay, and that's pretty much this thing. At first it was challenging to have enough energy. It's like an energy burst up. It works. It works. It's not super problematic. Okay, so those are the challenging spots. There's so much you can do with this piece. It's a great piece, really hard, really quick. Hope some of those insights help. Cheers.